breaking the law.
We are live. So, we're live in Atlanta traffic, and let's see if it's around. There we go. I can turn it around. So, I'm Johnny Walker, and this is...
Steve
Clark. Steve Clark. This is one of my very best friends since we were, how old? 10. How did we meet?
On the school bus.
On the school bus. We're not going to tell that story because it's kind of embarrassing.
For me.
It's yes. For Steve, it's a little embarrassing. So, but anyway, suffice it to say that I was a really skinny kid.
And I wasn't.
And he wasn't.
I'm still not.
A kid?
Skinny.
Or a kid. Skinny. I'm not that skinny anymore. I'm skinnier than I was a couple months ago. But he was kind of bullying, and I told him to stop, and he said,
okay.
No, you didn't say okay right away.
Oh, I said, who's going to make me?
Yeah, who's going to make me? And I took a big gulp, and because I thought I'm going to get my butt kicked. And I said, well, I guess and I'm looking around in the bus, and everyone is like now studying. If you can imagine 5th graders studying like 3 days before school's out. And no one was looking up. And I knew I was about to get my butt kicked. And I said, well, I guess if no one else will, it'll be me. And Steve, that guy, looked at me. He looked at me up, and he looked at me down. He must have thought I knew karate or something, because then he said,
okay.
and then he sat down. And I was so amazed. And then I saw him again. I saw you again. Middle of the summer. I was with my sister, and we were riding a bike down a hill. And you said,
hey, Jack.
Yeah, you were saying, hey, can I try this? Of course. Yeah. And I said, can you try this? And I was thinking, oh, man, he's going to steal my bike.
You thought this was the payback time.
This was the payback time, yeah.
And it was, strangely enough, payback time.
So he got on the bike, and he rode down the hill, and pushed it back up, and handed it to me, said thanks, and he and Jody, the guy who was twice Steve's size, walked into the woods, and I thought, man, if it wasn't for my sister.
Yeah, that wasn't what saved
No.
And I wasn't mad at you.
No, well, I just didn't know. I mean, so then, first day of 6th grade.
On the bus. We're both 6th graders.
Yeah.
We're now the little guys on the bus.
And so he is sitting, so he obviously got on the bus first, and so I'm walking, and I see Steve sitting like 2 seats from the front on the left. And I'm thinking, just look at the back of the bus, just keep walking.
Well, the bus was pretty full.
And it was.
There were no seats further back.
But he said, hey.
Sit here.
And I thought, he's going to pinch me the entire way.
All the way to school.
He's going to pinch me the entire way to school. And he didn't. And we talked. And then we sat together on the way home. You invited me over, and we sat on the roof of the house.
And ate something he'd never had before.
Yes.
A little-known southern delicacy.
Called muscadines.
On a roof.
That's that was pretty cool, too, to be able to sit on your parents' roof in the woods. And
redneck is what...
Yes, so rednecks, yes.
Okay.
So we've been best friends ever since. That was 10. We were 10, and we're now 47 and a half.
We're more than 47 and a half.
Well, a little more. In March, for me, it was a half, and he's a month older. So February, it was a half for you.
2 weeks. 2 weeks is not a month. Now you're exaggerating the other way.
Okay. Okay. So that's a long story.
But the crux of that is that at that moment when he said, well, I guess I will, and I said, okay, that was a crossroads in my life, one of many that all of us come to, right? And that's where kind of true friendships can start, is I was at a crossroads where this path was going to lead me to destruction, and the path that was right, where he was standing, was the path that leads towards redemption. And I chose the path towards redemption because he convicted me of the wrong that I was doing.
I just didn't want him doing what he was doing.
It was wrong.
But it worked. That's how God can work in you without you even knowing it.
Exactly.
And, you don't have to be doing a big thing. You just have to be willing to do the right thing.
Yeah, the right thing at the moment.
And you never know.
You need to do.
And
sometimes one good man standing alone, standing in the gap, makes all the difference.
And so 37 and a half years later, you too could be driving your best friend back to the airport.
In traffic.
Which sucks. In the traffic, it still sucks. Sorry.
Fortunately, every too slows down.
Which gives us time to do this. Yes. So, so what would you say, Steve, is, being my best friend for 37 years. Hey, who just jumped on? Minnie M, welcome.
Welcome, Minnie M.
Sorry, didn't mean to make you look at my nose hairs. I'm trying to read. I'm old.
So he has plenty of them.
Yeah, and it looks like Jowdy just joined. So you got to tell me when people join so that I know. So we've been
I'm trying
friends.
to watch the road since you're
Thank you. Since I'm driving and scoping. so just joined. We're in Atlanta, and this is just lovely.
Beautiful track.
So being friends for 37 years, how would you define what true friendship is?
I'm willing to stand beside each other and be yourself, to be open to being yourself no matter what the cost. Because there's times that being yourself is painful, not only to you, but to others. And that's one thing that he and I have always embraced, is always truly being ourselves, regardless of the consequences to ourselves or to each other, so that we can always be true to who we are. And embracing that. I don't always have to agree with everything that Jack does, or Johnny does. I call him Jack.
He does. He does agree with everything,
but I don't have to. and vice versa, right? But we also have to be willing to embrace the fact that there can be a disagreement, and that it's okay to disagree. That our friendship is stronger than the disagreements we have. That Christ is stronger than also the disagreements that we have.
Hey, to Russia, glad you joined us. It's a bromance. It's a bromance.
This is definitely a bromance.
Absolutely. In fact, when I got engaged many moons ago, when I was 19 and when I was getting married, they didn't have to like my wife, but my wife had to know that Steve and another friend, Ben, were going to be a part of my life. So it was, I knew at that time, even at 19, that the bromance was important. But yeah, so...
And my present wife and my ex-wife also both knew that was a requirement, that this man was always going to be a part of my life. We were always going to be
friends. And his ex-wife likes me better than...
She likes me, obviously.
she friended me on Facebook first. Hey, thanks for the heart there. So, yeah, she talked to me sooner than she talked back to him. But no, it's just about thick and thin. It's about, doing whatever. In fact, it was too long since we'd seen each other, so... I said, you're getting on a plane and coming down. So we found some time.
And just spent a nice 4 days together.
Yeah, it was good.
A really good time.
So yeah, I took him to work with me. It was take your best friend to work day. They didn't know that, but they didn't mind. So
I was quiet. That's why they didn't mind.
That's right.
They didn't discover how obnoxious I am.
Do you guys think that friendship still exists in 2016? What do you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it depends on the individuals. I think friendship is very... hey, welcome, Brown Eyed. I think friendship is a rare thing. I think what we have is rare. Back when he and I were friends, you had to literally write letters. So when we went to college, I actually found letters. I didn't tell you that. I meant to pull them out. There were letters from Ben and from you.
I wrote a letter?
Yeah, I know. Back in college.
Match.
I know. I think there's two.
I was in the Navy.
Yes. So they didn't teach them how to write in the Navy.
No. They taught us how to go see.
That's right. To fight, to defend. But no, I think absolutely that friendship exists. It depends on, you got to find the right connections. I think you have to find people with the right values, that have similar values. And I think you have to find people that are willing to give more than receive. And if two people are willing to do that in any relationship.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's like any relationship. Because friendship requires...
So we have some questions here. When did we meet my best friend? We met when we were 10.
1978.
Yeah, 79 actually. Years. And I just lost that other question. Crap, I didn't see it. I was trying to drive. Hello hey, welcome Turkey. That's great. People from Turkey. Awesome.
Oh, it was 79. You're right. I was wrong.
Yeah, well, it's because I moved that year. It was easy for me to remember. Someone asked a question besides that, and I didn't answer. You can listen to the replay on this on Catch. And you'll hear the original story of how we met, which was kind of cool.
It was cool.
But we actually had some falling outs, too.
Absolutely. There were times where, we discussed crossroads a little earlier, that I started down the other path, I made a decision when we were really teenagers to start doing drugs and some other things that were a little destructive. And
I was on a mission trip that summer.
We spent a whole summer apart, which is part of why, there were other friendships that were now filling the void that, and I was making some bad decisions. And
I remember the day I came back. I'd spent 3 months in England when I was 14 with Teen Missions International. Great group. And forgive me, I can't welcome everyone because I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. We're driving as we're doing.
breaker.
Yeah, and I was a cop for 18 years, so I feel.
So he's used to breaking the law.
I'm
kidding.
That is so awful.
I'm kidding.
He even went to work with me there too.
Did.
We'll have to tell that story later. But I come back from the mission trip, and I was so excited to go down to Steve's house, and he lived in the woods behind our neighborhood, and so I rode my bike down. Why does he hold the phone while you're driving? I know. Why don't you hold the phone? That's a great idea.
Because then you would be out of control.
So,
and this is your strong suit, not mine.
So, well,
it is true.
Sorry, we tried.
We tried. Didn't work.
So, what can you answer my question? Well, I don't know. That's right, he does, because we've been friends 37 years. He can answer my questions.
And he can answer my
questions. I remember, so we were down there, and a guy named Chris was down there, and they were going to go to Chris's house, and I knew that they were going to smoke pot. And they said, "You come with us," and I knew that was the wrong thing to do, and I said, "I'm not doing that." Well, hey, let's go up to my neighborhood, because Chris lived in the neighborhood on the other side of Steve's property. And basically, Steve didn't say it, but Chris said, "Well, you know what? We're going, and if you want to go, if you want to come on. If you don't." And I'll never forget watching them walk into the woods, and the feeling I felt when I couldn't even ride my bike. I was so sad. I was 14, and
I was bothered as well. Just so you know.
And yeah, you know, it was almost like you didn't want to do it, but you did. And so I remember walking the bike home and just feeling so depressed. And that school year, we barely talked.
Sophomore year.
I would call every once in a while, but I wouldn't go down to his house because I didn't want to put myself in that situation and risk it. But you didn't even smoke pot that long.
No, only a few months.
And you know, I didn't find out till I was a DARE officer, and he spoke. "Hey, Steady Eddie, welcome." I didn't find out till. Ooh, you want to come on in, merge? Bring it, brother. I didn't find out till I was teaching DARE several years later, and he spoke to my DARE class that I assumed he'd smoked pot that whole year, but he didn't. But he was just. So, do you remember what you said? Why you didn't call me?
I was ashamed.
Yeah, he was ashamed. And right at the end of school of 10th grade, he called me and said, "Hey, do you have a summer job?" And I didn't. And he said, "You want to work at a Mexican restaurant?" And I didn't, but I wanted to hang out with Steve. And I figured, well, he ain't going to be smoking pot at a restaurant.
Yeah, but they did.
They did, but we didn't.
We didn't.
We didn't. And so I took the job, and then our friendship renewed, and it's just been going ever since. So there's a lot of crossroads. You know, there's a lot of, some people, welcome. Jobu, welcome. So there's a lot of, you know, people ask, can friendship still exist in 2016? The answer is yes. It's just as hard as it was in 1980s.
It's easier to stay connected.
It is.
That's one of the nice things about being friends now, because, you know, you can quick text and you can do all these things, and it doesn't cost money like it used to.
Oh my gosh,
making a long distance phone call used to cost $40.
Yeah.
And you have to understand $40 in yesterday's money was a lot more than it is now.
We're old. So it was interesting. So we did a lot of stupid stuff together too. So we had a lot of fun, and we got, you know, Ben got arrested with me, not you.
I didn't get arrested.
That's another scope on
friendship. He has
friendship.
to be here to do that.
Yeah, we're not doing that one. It wasn't as bad as it sounds. But no,
it was funny.
But it does take effort, and it does take investment of time, your resources. You got to check on each other. You can't just get your feelings hurt and say, well, they haven't called me, so I'm not calling them. If they haven't called you,
because the phone works both ways.
Yes, isn't that right, Steve?
I wouldn't know. As far as I know, my phone only receives calls. Sometimes it only receives them when I'm not around.
That's right.
It's one of the things that you don't understand is Jack lives in a large city. He lives in Atlanta, Georgia. And I live in a very small rural community in upstate New York, Corinth, New York. And it's in the mountains. And there's a lot of times, places that I go, that there is no cell service. So sometimes it's not intentional.
He goes there for hours, not days or months or years.
Sometimes just minutes. It's the perfect minute.
But it's a great excuse. It sounds great. But anyway. So it's interesting that there's been a lot of people that have come in and out of our lives. And I think both of us thought, wow, these are going to be really lasting friendships. And I think when we see those people, they're still good friendships.
They're very good. Well, there's Scotty is still,
yeah, Scotty's one.
A great member of our friendship group.
Yeah. So we it's interesting because we get to add friends to the group. So love is not jealous. So even in friendship, that's a type of love.
Absolutely.
And it's not jealous. And so we we get introduced to great people by each other. So it's a lot of fun.
That's one of the nice things is he has very, very quality friends.
No, and so do you.
And I'm not saying that I'm the quality friend, but because we have because we have similar values and similar beliefs, and we're willing to invest in people and invest of ourselves in people.
Sure.
That the people that we tend to attract tend to be like us.
Yeah. So, you want friends, be a great friend. Spend time, invest. But at the same time, you got to make decisions, and they were